So today we will read from the Srimad Bhagavatam from text 13 till text 28. That 28 is a purport, and we will recite text 28 together. I will read now all the text from 13 till 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nastabreza abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, we offer our respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, and unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being. That we offer our obeisances to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance of the class of the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is nearly completely destroyed, and loving service, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established within the heart as an irrevocable effect. So we are reading from the Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 10, the battle between the demigods and Vritrasur, text 13-14. So I just read the Sanskrit and the translation of the verses. Atendro vacham utyam ya nirmitam vishvakarmana mune sakti virutsikto bhagavateya samvita vritur devarganai sarver kachandro par asobhata stuyamana manukanais Trilokam harsayam miva. Thereafter, King Indra very firmly took up the thunderbolt manufactured by Vishvakarma from the bones of Dadichi. Charged with exalted power of Dadichi Muni and enlightened by the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Indra rode on the back of his carrier, Airavata, surrounded by all the demigods, while all the sages offered him praise. Thus he shone very beautifully, pleasing the three worlds, as he rode off to kill Vritrasur. Text 15. Vritam madhyada vakshatram asurani kayutapai Paryastam ojasarajam kododa ivantakam. My dear King Parikshit, as Rudra, being very angry at Antaka, Yamaraj, had formerly run towards Antaka to kill him, Indra angrily and with great force attacked Vritrasur, who was surrounded by the leaders of the demoniac armies. Text 16. Tata surana masurai rona paramadaruna titramuke narmadayam abhavat pratame yuge. Thereafter, at the end of Satya Yuga, and the beginning of Tetra Yuga, a fierce battle took place between the demigods and the demons on the banks of the Narmada. So there is a purport which is mainly speaking on geography. Herein, the Narmada does not mean the Narmada River in India. The 5 sacred rivers in India, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, and Krishna, are all celestial. Like the Ganges River, the Narmada River also flows in the higher planetary systems. The battle between the demigods and the demons took place in the higher planets. The words Pratam Yuga means in the beginning of the first millennium. That is to say, in the beginning of the Vaishvata Manvantar. In one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, who each live for 71 millenniums. The 4 Yugas, Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali, constitute 1 millennium. We are presently in the Manvantar of Vaishvata Manu, who is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Iman Vishvasvate Yogam Bhaktavam Am Avyayam Vivashan Manave Pravo. We are now in the 28th millennium of Vaishvata Manu, but this fight took place in the beginning of Vaishvata Manu's first millennium. One can historically calculate how long ago the battle took place, since each millennium consists of 4,300,000 years. And we are now in the 28th millennium, some 120,400,000 years have passed since the battle took place on the bank of the river Narmada. Text 1718. Rudrair Vasobe Adityer Avishabhyam Pritivanibi Marudbir Ribobi Satyer Vishvadevar Marutpatim Vishva Vrachadaram Sakam Uchamanam Svayashviya Nam Rishyan Asara Rajan Vritte Vritta Purachsara. O king, when all the Asuras came onto the battlefield, headed by Vitrashur, they saw King Indra carrying the thunderbolt and surrounded by the Rudras, Vasus, Adityas, Asvinikumaras, Pitas, Vanis, Maruts, the Ribus, the Sadhyas, and the Vishvadevas. Surrounded by his company, Indra shone so brightly that his effulgence was intolerable to the demons. Text 90-22. Namuchi Sambaro Narva Trimurta Risabosura Ayagriva Sankusira Viprashitir Ayomukha Puloma Vrishaparvacha Prahetir Hetir Utkala Teteya Danava Yaksha Rakshamsi Sasasraja Sunmali Mali Pramukha Kritasvara Parichyata Pratisyendra Senagam Mrityo Api Durasadam Abhyartayan Asambranta Singyananden Adurmada Kodabi Pariger Banai Prashamutkhara Tumarai. Many hundreds and thousands of demons, demi-demons, yakshas, rakshasas, man-eaters, and others, headed by Sumali and Mali, resisted the armies of King Indra, which even death personified cannot easily overcome. Among the demons were Namuchi, Sambar, Anarva, Dvimukhda, Rishabha, Asura, Ayagriva, Sankursira, Piprachiti, Ayonmukha, Puloma, Vishaparva, Praheti, Heti, and Utkala, roaring tumultuously and fearlessly like lions. These invincible demons, all dressed in golden ornaments, gave pain to the demigods with weapons like clubs, bludgeons, arrows, barbed darts, mallets, and lances. Sulai parasvadai katkai, satachnebir pusundibi, sarvato vakiran sastrech, astraisa vibodach saban, armed with lances, tridents, axes, swords, and other weapons like Satachnis and Busundis, the demons attacked from different directions and scattered all the chiefs of the demigod armies. Nati disyanta sanchana sarajalai samantata pukana puka patiter yotim siva naboganai. As the stars in the sky cannot be seen when covered by dense clouds, the demigods, being completely covered by the network of arrows falling upon them, one after another, could not be seen. Nate sastra strafa sarga, iyase dosurana sainikan. Shinasida pate dever lahu hastai sasrada. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldiers of the demigods did not reach them, because the demigods acted quickly, cut the weapons into thousands of pieces in the sky. Atak sinastra satroka Kirishinga Dramopalai Apyavarsam Surabalam Chichidustam Sapurvavat. As their weapons and mantras decreased, the demons began showering mountain peaks, trees, and stones upon the demigod soldiers. But the demigods were so powerful and expert that they nullified all these weapons by breaking them to pieces in the sky as before. 27. Tan aksatan svatima tunisamya sasastra pucher avrittanata tomechtisad bich pividat hisinger Aviksatam statra surindra sannikan. When the soldiers of the demons commanded by Vritrasur saw that the soldiers of King Indra were quite well, having not been injured by all their volleys of weapons, not even by the trees, stones, and mountain peaks, the demons were very much afraid. Text 28, we can repeat together. Sarve prayasa abhavan vimoha Kita kita devagane sudaityai Krishna nakulesyata mahatsu Shudrai prayukta ushati raksha vacha Sarve prayasa abhavan vimoha Kita kita devagane sudajai Krishna nakulesyata mahatsu Sudrai Payukta Ushati Ruksha Vacham Sarve Prayasa Abhavan Mimukha Keita Kita Deva Gune Sadetyai Krishna Nakule Shyata Mahatsu Sujay Payukta Ushati Ruksha Vacham Sarve Payasa Abhavan Vimoha Kita Kita Deva Ganesha Detyai Krishna Nakule Shyata Mahatsu Shudre Prayukta Ushati Ruksha Vacha Sarve Payasa Abhavan Vimoha Kita Kita Deva Ganesha Detyai Krishna Nakule Shyata Mahatsu Kshutre Payukta Ushati Ruksha Vacha Mataji, please. Sarve Payasa Abhavan Vimoha Kita Kita Deva Ganesha Detyai Krishna Nakule Shyata Mahatsu Shudre Payukta Ushati Ruksha Vachai Sarve Payasa Abhavan Vimoha Kita Kita Deva Ganesha Detyai Krishna Nakule Shyata Mahatsu Krishna Payukta Ushati Ruksha Vachai Sarve Payasa Abhavan Vimoha Kita Kita Deva Ganesha Detyai Krishna Nakule Shyata Mahatsu Shudre Payukta Ushati Ruksha Vachai Sarve all Prayasa endeavors Abhavan were Vimoha futile Kita performed Kita again performed Devaganesha unto the demigods Daityai by the demons Krishna Anukulesu who were always protected by Krishna Yata just as Mahatsu unto the Vaishnavas Kshudrai by insignificant persons Prayukta used Usati unfavorable Ruksha rough Vacha words. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. When insignificant persons use rough words to cast false, angry accusations against saintly persons. Their fruitless words do not disturb the great personalities. Similarly, all the efforts of the demons against the demigods who were favorably situated under the protection of Krishna were futile. Purport. There is a Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. Similarly, accusations made by the demoniac persons against devotees of Krishna cannot have any effect. The demigods are devotees of Lord Krishna, and therefore the curses of the demons were futile. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jananjala Shakaya Shakshran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chitchitaya Manobistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Kamanaya Dati Svapadantikam Pandayam Shiru Shiyuda Padakamalam Shirum Vaishnavam Sha Shirupam Jarjatam Saganarnatam Tam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savdutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Saganalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha Hey Krishna Gona Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanashri Vishvana Sutta Devi Pranamama Haripriya Vankha Kalptrubhisha Kripa Sindhubevisha Patanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachari Desatarni. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, the essence of this verse is that demoniac people, if they curse devotees or harass devotees, then that will not be very effective, because devotees are under the direct protection of the Supreme Lord. So that's described in 9.22 of Bhagavad Gita. Ananya sintiyantamam yechana parapashte te samnitya bhuktyam yogaksem navamyam. One who serves me with unalloyed devotion, I protect what he has and I give him everything what he needs. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Krishna gives everything to his devotees, what they need to make further spiritual progress. And the Lord protects their progress in spiritual consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. So that's essential protection, that is spiritual protection. But what's the results of the endeavors of demons who will try to harass devotees? What's the result of any demoniac endeavor? That's a general point. It's explained by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 9.12. Moga samoga karamana moga jnana vishetasa Rakshasima Shem Sheva Pagatim Moinim Shvitaha. Krishna says in this verse, those who are bewildered by atheistic views, the demons, that whatever they desire, they strive for liberation, they want results of their fruitive actions to enjoy, or they want knowledge. It's all baffled, Krishna says. They don't achieve anything of all this. That futile. We have seen in the history of our movement, in the 70s, there was, especially in 1976, beginning of 1977 in America, they want to discredit our movement, destroy it, and they had a nationwide campaign practically, hiring psychiatrists and engaging deprogrammers who were kidnapping devotees to turn them away from Krishna consciousness. And there were court cases trying to show this is not a religion, this is cheating, that this is a brainwashing movement. What was the result in the Supreme Court in 1977? The judge of the Supreme Court declared the Hare Krishna movement is a bona fide religion. And all this fight is against the spirit of America, getting freedom from religion. Srila Prabhupada was very concerned with it, and during the fight before the court, he said, you should give them all our books as evidence. So the judge said, read all these books. What's happened when you read the Bhagavatam? So his heart underwent purification, and he declared our movement to be a bona fide religion. And we have this forever. It's stated by the Supreme Judge that. So what was the result of all their endeavors? Futile. We had in Bombay at that time, when Srila Prabhupada, when we were in the process of acquiring the land at Juhu, Srila Prabhupada had to fight with Mr. Nair. Was quite a fierce fight. And what was the result for Mr. Nair? He got a heart attack and passed away. That it's all futile endeavor. And here we see King Indra and Vritrasur. And it's described here how he looked so opulent. And now he had this thunderbolt made by Vishvakarma from the bones of Dadichi Muni, which made him like invincible and unconquerable. And we will see further in the story that, yes, Indra will get victory. At least externally he gets victory. On the spiritual platform, it's a big failure. Srila Prabhupada, because Vitrasur was in the body of a demon, but inside he was a pure devotee. That further in purport, Srila Prabhupada will write that King Indra, he will remain rotting in this material world while Vitrasur is going back to Godhead. So here we see the futility of all this external appearance in this world. Important is our consciousness. That important is that we learn to act as a spirit soul on the spiritual platform. That acting on the spiritual platform means putting Krishna in the center of all our activities. Demoniac means we put ourselves in the center. And King Indra is a demigod, but he has still this material desire to rule over the universe. And that means, what does it mean, material desire? That material desire, Srila Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, is a subtle form of being conditioned. From desire, it's activity of the soul. It's mentioned in the 3rd chapter. We must desire, otherwise we are dead. It's the nature of the soul to be active. Always desire must be there. But if we desire selfish, that by that selfish desire we contact the material energy and we get controlled by the material energy. So, because Krishna is in our heart, he notices our desires and he reciprocates with it. Desire is like a kind of prayer. That's what it is. Because we are not a doer in material nature. Everything is done by material nature. Everything is done by material nature. But we desire, if we desire selfish, then we contact material nature and become bound by material nature. So desire is a kind of prayer. If you have a material desire, that means we are praying for birth, death, old age and disease. That's what we are praying for. We should always be very conscious of what we desire. From the moment we desire things just for ourselves, then we become bound up. We get reactions. But we have to learn to desire, to put Krishna in the center. Desire to serve Krishna. Desire to serve Krishna's devotees. Because being liberated, there are 2 stages. One stage is the heart is pure. Yes, then you act pure because the heart is pure. But even when the heart is not pure, we can act on the liberated platform just by acting for the pleasure of the spiritual master. And that's called Vyavasayatmika Buddhi in Bhagavad Gita 2:41. Taking the mission of one's spiritual masters, one's life and soul. And that's acting on the spiritual platform. If we act on that platform, then automatically Pramanyadai Karmani Sangyantyat Kakotiva Lipyatena Spapina Patma Patvam Ivam Vasa. Then our actions will have no reactions. We will be like a lotus leaf. It's untouched by water. It doesn't impregnate. It will not act upon us. And that's a lesson we need to learn, that we cannot fight against Maya. Maya is Krishna's unsurpassable energy. But we can easily cross over when we surrender to Krishna. If we surrender to Krishna, we are out of the influence of Maya. So a devotee, therefore, makes arrangements to stay always out of the influence of Maya, by always engaging one's body, mind and senses in the service of Krishna. But that can really only be practiced in association of devotees. When we are always serving an association of devotees, then Maya cannot touch us. Maya has no effect on us. Like these curses of these demons, they have no effect. Even if they would have the power to curse, and we get we get influenced by material nature, then still, if we act in Krishna consciousness, it will not be able to affect us. It may affect us externally, the body, but if we don't identify with the body, it will not affect us. So where do we put our consciousness in? Where are we going to absorb ourselves in? In all the all the futile things in this world? That Krishna consciousness means we are learning about spiritual reality. And it's absorption. We learn to absorb ourselves in this spiritual reality. Someone said to Srila Prabhupada, you are escapists. You are escaping the reality of this world. But what is reality? It's beyond the purview of our senses. Srila Prabhupada would say, yes, we are escapists. This place is not a place for gentlemen. This is a place of Dukkalayam, Ashasvatam. So, by that, if we come to Krishna consciousness, we can elevate our consciousness. We start to see that Krishna's energy acts always favorable towards the devotee. That if a devotee sees suffering, he sees, oh, now this is a chance to become purified. He sees Krishna's hands. Now, Krishna is arranging for my purification. He's so merciful. So, coming to the spiritual platform means learning to see Krishna's hand everywhere. It comes to the point of whatever happens in my life, good or bad, is the mercy of the Lord. So that is the factual realization of a devotee. He's transcending the duality, because that's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, that desire and hate, 334 Bhagavad Gita, desire and hate are paripantina, are obstacles on the path of self-realization. That because this duality, good and bad, it's to a certain extent a concoction of our mind. We think that things are good when it's pleasant for our senses and our mind. And we think that things are bad that when it gives pain to my senses. But Krishna consciousness is another vision, that things are good when it facilitates my service to Krishna, when it pleases Krishna. That things are good when it's favorable for devotional service. When it's unfavorable, it's not good. That's another level of consciousness. And in this verse, Ananya Sintiyantamam 9:22 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives spiritual care. That he protects our Krishna consciousness and arranges for our going back to Godhead. And that was the arrangement he made for Vritrasur. He was a pure devotee. And Indra, although external victory, but what's the use? It's all temporary. That yesterday I read in the news in England where you have this famous astronomist Hawkins. He died at the age of 76. Great Oxford scholar, great mind, but he died. And in a few years everyone will forget him. It's all temporary. A devotee understands I don't have to achieve anything in this world. It's all futile. Because that's the demonic mentality. They think I'm going to become something in this world. And but soon time takes them away, it's all gone. But the devotee understands this material energy is also Krishna's energy. And Krishna uses it in my favor so that I can become purified. Tattena kampam samikshamo bunjatme ivatam kritam vibhagam ritvakva prabhu vidadama stage vetyo mukti padesodayavak. A devotee sees suffering. When he's suffering, he thinks that's due to my own past misdeeds. That I've done stupid things in the past, in my previous life, and now I get a reaction. And the devotee is not disturbed by it. He thinks, good, now I can pay for my own misdeeds. Krishna is so merciful. He gives me only a token of these reactions. And that purifies the heart. Then most of the suffering is already gone. That's how a devotee sees suffering, is the mercy of Krishna. In that way, when this summer 2016, one of our god brothers in Leicester, Hamsarhati Krishna Prabhu was his name. Hamsarhati Krishna, he was living in Leicester, but yeah, he was Gujarati. They came from Kenya or Uganda in 1972 when Idi Amin decided all these Indians here in my country, they are disturbing the economy. They were there historically. They came from Gujarat, but they came to East Africa to build railways. That's in the mid of the 19th century. But 1972 they all arrived in Heathrow, being thrown out by Idi Amin. That they arrived with 100,000 because they had all a British passport. And many settled in Leicester in the heart of England. 55,000 Gujaratis there. And Hamskati Krishna Prabhu, that was his background, and then he was a herbal doctor, a brilliant doctor, that he cured so many people from so-called incurable diseases with his herbs. But then, the beginning of 2016, he got cancer. And he tried. He was a very good doctor, but he could not cure himself. And in April 2016, the doctors told him, "You have only 3 months to live." I visited him every 2-3 days. Because he was very weak, he could not eat anymore. He was very, very weak. But every time I would visit him, he would smile and said, "Jai Prabhupada." He was always so dedicated to Prabhupada. And he could not speak anymore practically. And most of the time he had to rest. But in the little moments he had, he was reading from a small booklet, Beyond Birth and Death, Prabhupada's book. And then he would speak, when I would visit him, he would glorify Prabhupada and tell me what he remembered, having read few paragraphs. That at a certain moment, I told him that now you have to see everything in your life, good or bad, as Krishna's mercy. He replied to me, "No, everything is good, everything is Krishna's mercy." So that's a sign of someone who has transcended the duality of this world of good and bad. He had to leave soon his body, but he saw his own condition as Krishna's mercy. And what are the symptoms that he was on the Brahma Buddha platform, on the spiritual platform really? That at a certain moment his body became completely dehydrated. And he was brought to the hospital. In England, the hospitals, most of the hospitals, when you go to the hospital, you come on a hospital ward. A ward has mostly 6 beds, and he was at the right side in a bed. And when I came to visit him, he was practically unconscious. I was thinking every moment he can leave his body. So I wrote Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, about the situation, and he wrote me an email back, a letter for him. I went back to the hospital. He was still practically unconscious, but I read the letter into his ear. I was not sure if he would have heard it, but at the end he gave a sign that he has heard the letter. I was thinking the next day he will not be there anymore. This is the 13th of July 2016. That was the next day. Oh, the same day I visited him in the evening. The 13th of July 2016 was our celebration of the incorporation of ISKCON 50 years ago in New York. And in the evening, we had a celebration. I did Guru Puja for Srila Prabhupada, and we had a lecture and glorifying Prabhupada and the establishment of ISKCON. Then the next day, I went back to the hospital and I took Srila Prabhupada's garland with me that I offered the day before. I was afraid when I arrived that he could have passed away already, but when I arrived, he was conscious, sitting in a chair. The situation was a little better because he got some water into his body. But when I went to him, I offered him the garland of Prabhupada, and he smiled, really a broad smile. He had difficulty to speak. He could speak very, very softly. And he said to me, "Jai Prabhupada, this night I dreamt that Srila Prabhupada offered me his garland." And he was smiling. Now, in the bed opposite, there was a man in his 50s who just had undergone an operation, and he was lamenting like anything. There were 2 nurses to calm him down. And in the other corner was an old lady in her beginning of her 90s, and she was crying, depressed and always lamenting. See the contrast. Hamsagati Krishna was going to leave his body, and he would leave his body in the days thereafter, and he was smiling blissfully. That is a sign of having transcended to duality, seeing everything as Krishna's mercy. In that state of consciousness, nothing in the world can hurt you. And that's a devotee, because he's acting on the transcendental platform. He's not really affected by whatever harassment of demons comes. No effect. It may have temporarily it may look like these demons are flourishing, but that's very temporary. Finally it all vanquishes. But the devotee understands the real value of life is to revive again my relationship with Krishna. And that was the business of Vitrasur. I'm going to revive again my relationship with Krishna, and he was living in that relationship. When Indra came, he needed 1 year to cut the throat to cut the head of Vitrasur. But Vitrasur was already in the spiritual world, Samadhi. He left already. So, what is being to get victory for a devotee? That victory does not mean to amass wealth or get a reputation or to do so-called wonderful things in this material world. That's not so wonderful. Wonderful is just realizing who we are, not trying to become something in this world. And then we are beyond the influence of material nature. Thank you very much. Any question or comment? We have a mic.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for describing the various pastimes of the devotees, especially that is glorifying the Prabhupada. The question is that, like, in the purports mentioned that great personalities not disturbed by the wrong words, like especially. So how we can understand that incidents, or you can say pastime of this Bhragu approaches to the Brahma and the Lord Shiva. They got disturbed. Even Brahma feel offended by the intentions only. And here is mentioned that great personality does not get disturbed. So how we can reconcile both the things?
Yeah. So Lord Krishna arranges for his devotees to take part in his pastimes. And it's sometimes like the mother teaches the daughter in the presence of the daughter-in-law. But it's meant to teach the daughter-in-law. So Krishna uses his devotees to educate us and let them go to certain pastimes. Like we have, Krishna shows us the danger of lust, the danger of not performing a proper sadhana. Bharat Maharaj was practically on the Bhava platform, and still, normally one does not fall down from the Bhava platform. But Krishna made an arrangement that he fell down to teach us that. So Krishna uses his pastimes to teach us. And when Lord Shiva was bewildered by Mohini Mukti, Krishna is teaching us nobody can surpass the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also not Lord Shiva. That, yes, like in this pastime, Krishna is teaching us so many different things. We have Indra is a great personality, but still is bewildered by thinking I have to achieve something in this temporary world. That it may be a different kind of bewildering than Lord Brahma running after his daughter Vak. That was just a short moment of bewilderment of Lord Brahma. But Krishna is teaching us. He says in Bhagavad Gita, even one of the roaming senses can kill your spiritual life. So engage always your senses in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, we are in danger. So many lessons to learn. And Krishna uses his devotees for that. Therefore, he appears. He appears in this world. And he brings a whole entourage with him. That And they stay for quite a time until Krishna leaves and takes them all away. That the Ujjain Prabhu used to say when we came at these pastime of the 11th canto, at the end you have the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. And Ujjain said, oh, this is the end of this is Krishna's roadshow. He goes from one universe to another. And here, at the end, they are all preparing to go to the next destination. Like, they come here to play a drama, a certain role. And then, when the drama is over, like the drama is performed, they take all of their costumes, and then they go to the next destination, to the next universe. So in that way, Krishna is teaching us to his devotees. At least that's certainly one reason that I can think of. That's okay? Thank you. Good. Thank you very much. You have also a question? Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for such a wonderful lecture. You concluded by saying that we have to know actually who we are. Actually, in Prabhupada also, in most of the lectures, tells that only that we are body, we are soul, not this body. So we hear it many times, but for sake of me, for some moment it remains in mind that okay, we have to act on the platform of soul. But in practical terms, it is get difficult. So can you tell how we have to live on the platform of soul and act?
That's a good question. That understanding we are in this body, that's one level. The next level is understanding I'm a servant of Krishna. And we start to serve in that capacity. By doing that, our heart becomes purified. And when our heart becomes purified, then Krishna gradually will reveal to us what kind of servant we are. And then we will realize our Siddha Swarup, our eternal relationship with Krishna. But that's a gradual process. That's a gradual process. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.